Welcome to Arise Book Talk of today. My name is Damien Muzun. I'm the founder of AINA Think Tank, the Africa's global laboratory for research, advocacy, and training based in Mauritius, Ghana, and here in Rwanda, where we are having this talk from. We would like to share with you from some of my favorite authors. And today I'm speaking about Stephen R. Covey, one of my late mentor, who wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The 8 Habits from Effectiveness to Greatness, and also The Third Alternative, the last book he wrote before he passed on. We would like to be talking about those 3 books combined today, and those books I highly recommend to any leader from any walk of life, particularly our young people and the lead teens program, that they could have this experience to prepare themselves from that age and learn about value that will guide them for greatness and also for peace in our world. So it's really symbolic for me to be able to do this for Arise Book Talk because I know their struggle. I know what they are up to about helping our people in Africa, and particularly from Rwanda, to learn about value that will make them good citizens and can develop their personality and character ethics so that they can become people of peace who can live in harmony without any attempt to harm the neighbors and the friends and anyone else. So I think in this particular case for Rwanda, to me, I'm just humble to be able to be instrumental to do this today. And as we start, I would like to share with you some of my take from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7 Habits is often said to be a timeless, principles-centered book that have reached the head of many countries and business leaders. Covey himself, before he died, he was a business guru. He taught at Harvard Business School. He managed to be a personal advisor to many head of states, more than 30 of them. He just fly in and then share with them some of these stories. So he's a very great figure that we lost, but thank God his works are still with us, the books and all his teaching that we can have the opportunity to share today. So the 7 Habits is one of that book that have hit any personality and leader in business, politics, and religious setup, regardless of race, of age, of different considerations. And we are very happy that we could give you some tip about it as we ask you to find the book. Arise have all these copies. You can buy them and read. You can buy for your kids and have them read during this period where everybody is locked down because of COVID. The first thing that was important to note from the book is the way he structured the book. He structured it in a way that it gives you some reference about life itself. He began by talking about the 3 first habits, which are being proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first thing first. He said that those 3 habits are the foundation for private victory. And private victory means victory over yourself, being able to dominate yourself so that you can conquer the world. So those 3 habits help you to become independent. So from dependency, which is, when we are children, we are dependent on people, on our parent, on the society. But to move from that dependency to independency, we do need to master those habits, which is being proactive means being able to make a decision. You see, it's common for our people, particularly here in Africa, where people always have excuses to everything. They come late, they say it's because of rain, and they always find excuse to not do what is right. And for that, any leader have to master that first habit, which is to take responsibility for your life, to become responsible citizens. And that is the first habit. And the second habit deals with setting a goal. Most people are just like someone you meet at the junction of a road who ask you to give them direction, and yet they don't know where they are going. So how do you give them different reference of direction or guide them if they themselves have no idea where they are going? So they need to know first where you are headed. What is your goal in life? What is your why? What is your purpose? So finding your why in life is what this second habit is about. Managing to know, where am I going? What is my mission statement? How do I write my mission statement? What really is my purpose on this earth? And what is the legacy I'm going to leave? You begin with that end in mind, knowing if I were to die today, what will be that thing that I will be remembered for? And once you have that clear enough, you will not be distracted by the noise around us and the challenges we face, that everybody faces in everyday's life. You will be able to move on and keep up your faith regardless of all challenges and obstacles that may come your way. The third habit is basically about time management. How do you put first thing first? What matters most must be the first thing that should be the focus of a leader. So once you've decided in habit 2 about what you want to achieve, what your mission is, you know now how to direct your effort toward things that will help you to achieve that goal. And that time management, that focus on things that matter the most, which should never be at the mercy of things that matters least. So we are taught through those habits to be able to manage our time in terms of how do we classify from what is important and urgent to what is important but not urgent, from what is urgent but not important, and from what is not even important and not urgent, so that we work through those quadrants that you find in the book and read to be able to understand how you can best manage your life and manage your time. And the fourth habit, before I get into the fourth habit, let me stop by and explain. The three next habits are made to move from independency to interdependency. So the first three habits takes you from dependency to independency. Now these three habits that are coming will take you from independency to interdependency. And that means that it is now about how do you relate with people. I can call this social or emotional intelligence development, so that you know how do you behave. If you have behaved with yourself, you've mastered the victory over yourself, how do you go into public victory, like victory over the community and over others? How do you live in a way that is sustainable with the community around you, with the people around you? So the fourth habit is about think win-win. And think win-win is about being able to consider other people's needs in whatever you are doing. We can live in the world where it's all about you, and we get to see in many setup where people become so egocentric that they don't care about other people. But it's not sustainable. It can last if you can't have the capacity to think of others as you also think of your own progress and development. Habit number 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that habit teaches about the values of listening to other people. You see, most of us generally think that we are listening to people, but we're listening while thinking about what to answer, what to reply, not listening to understand or to get the message of the person, whether we disagree with the person or not. So the habit 5 helps us to be able to be good listener, to be able to hear the perspective and sit in the shoes of the other people, listening to what they have to contribute before we sit down and reflect and think about it and react. We cannot be reactive while the person is making his own contribution or talking. Whatever the person is, wherever the person comes from, a good leader must have the habit of listening with all the senses to understand before he tries to contribute, before he tries to have a judgment, before he tries to have his own perspective of things. Habit number 6 is about synergy. Synergy is, I put it in a form that, you see, if somebody gives you perhaps, maybe you have a friend who promise you that at his death, he is going to give you 95% of his wealth. And another friend tells you he is going to give you 5% of his wealth. Which one do you take? Most of the time, people will go for the 95% without ever asking how much is that 95% applied to. Because if Bill Gates gave me 0.01% of his wealth, I will be better well off than somebody who is only worth 10,000 Rwandan franc, who will give me 95% of it. It will not reach that 10,000. So when we enlarge the pie, it doesn't matter the size, how much, the percentage that each one of us gets. So synergy is when the whole is greater than the sum of each part. So can we do this together? Can I synergize with you? If I'm a seller of books, can I specialize in this category of books and you specialize on that categories of books, so that we work together in a way that the books I cannot provide to my client, you will provide that. And the book that you cannot provide to the client, I would provide that. And we synergize. We reference to each other. We are still friends. We do this in a way that we satisfy our customer, but we also satisfy ourselves, instead of creating this culture of conflict, of disagreement, of fighting, unnecessary fighting, because we are fighting over what? Sometimes you look at the size of what is fought over and you think these people need to learn these values of synergy. They need to understand that if we all do well, we can all do better. So can we come together and bring our forces and have that culture of uplifting each other and working together to get the most out of it? That is habit number 6. And the last habit, which is sharpen the saw, is about how do you basically improve every day on each one of these habits. It's like, how do you sharpen your saw, like your cutlass, before you cut a tree? So most people are busy driving that they don't have time to get fuel, because they don't take time to educate themselves, to exercise, and to build themselves and develop what they have to develop. So they are static. They don't learn. The continuous learning is what this habit 7, that close this, is about. And I think what this whole 7 habits of highly effective people does, it helps you to live in balance with character and personality ethics. You know, this term might appear to you as a new thing when we talk about character and personality ethics. The character ethics is who we really are, and the personality ethics is whom we appear to be. So you see all this technique, like how to appear, how to behave in the society, and all this, they are good, but it's part of the personality ethics. The character ethics is who you are, what you represent. That makes people trust you, and they believe in you. They know what you stand for in the way that the trust is very high in that regard, and they have this level of understanding what you mean, what your intentions are, what you stand for, and that is creating the foundation for our world. That's why the 7th habit is about building yourself, developing yourself, and then he moved to the 8th habit. And the 8th habit is about how do you live now up to being effective with yourself, dominance over yourself, and the mastering of your social life to now become the guy who is yearning toward greatness. And yearning toward greatness has to do with the 4 basic parts of our life: the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. The body has to do with how we take care of ourselves physically. How do we do exercise and build ourselves in terms of not eating junk food, taking care of ourselves basically to not be sick and all these values. And the second one, which is mind, the mind have to deal with learning. How do you improve yourself in any field you are? How do you keep abreast of all the changes in your domain and then to improve in this world that is highly changing and fast challenging? I think we all need to keep up learning. And that, he said, you have to have the ability to learn, to unlearn, and to relearn again. And he wrote that book to announce the knowledge age worker time that we are living in, where it's all about wisdom, it's all about information, it's all about wisdom and knowledge. So he's able to bring us to the level where we have also to focus on our heart. So we feed our body, but we feed our mind too. We also need to feed our heart, which is all to do with how do you build a good relationship with other people? How do you make sure that you are able to feed the way you relate to other people, the way they see you? You build what he said. There is a word he used. He talked about emotional bank account. We all have personal bank accounts, or at least many people who works, they have a bank account with the Baker or whichever bank, or EcoBank or KCB. But there is a bank account that you have with every individual you come in contact with, which is your emotional bank account. And that emotional bank account has to deal with your behavior. When we go to, I was in secondary school, there was something they call Cahier de Discipline. It's like a book of discipline, where when you go to school, you misbehave, your teacher will go and put some note there, and that punishes you. It's all about that. Like how if that book exists, it means that's how you measure your emotional bank account with people. How do you behave? How do you make sure you don't offend people? You don't talk at people's back. If somebody does something that is wrong that you don't like, you go to the person. You talk to the person, not about the person to other people, because you want that person to change. Not even those you complain to, that will not change very much. So that kind of rapport, that kind of habit is what is important that we have to develop as we grow. And the last part is the spirit, the soul. Why do we go to church? Why do we hear those sermons? Why do we listen to those pastors, the inspiring ones and the priests? The problem is we want to build our spirit. We want to build our soul. So as much as we feed our body, we feed our mind, we feed our heart, we also need to feed our soul. And that's how we all have the beliefs. We all have to learn to get closer to God and build that level of growth and development. And this book also emphasizes on the fact that on the knowledge workers age, which is also what we call information age and also wisdom age, it's more of being able to invest in that level of education, and that education has more to do with the investment you make. You know, the industrial age consider paying for education for your kids as an expense, not as an investment. But the education we talk about doesn't necessarily mean schooling. That's what he was able to emphasize on and clarify the difference between being educated and being schooled.
and he put some parallel. I really highly recommend the 8 Habits. If you can get it from Arise and read, it will really help. Now, the last book that I want to tackle before this, to close the last, by the way, he wrote before he passed on, it was The Third Alternative. And I have, when you read The Third Alternative toward the end, he had this way of telling us like, goodbye, I trust you, you can run this world and take care of it. So from the beginning, creating the foundation from the 7 habits and leading people toward the greatness with the 8 habits, now he wrote The Third Alternative. And the Third Alternative is about some of these things that can make peace in our society. How do you see others? How do you see yourself? How do you understand the world around you in terms of being able to seek beyond your own side, which is more to do with many experiences that he have shared about country like Switzerland, like Mauritius. He shared so many things about different countries and different contexts. Like today, you see, I just want to give one example from the Third Habit about the prison system, where we say whenever somebody does something wrong, we pack them, we put them in jail, and they become worse before they come out. While they are in jail, the government have to take the taxpayers' money and feed them and take care of them. When they are sick, they have to be catered for by the money that others are raising. In some countries, they've developed this they call positive ticketing. Instead of punishing those who are doing wrong and putting them in jail, we want to emphasize and encourage those who are doing the right thing, the good thing, so that they can inspire the greatness and the good in the society. Instead of being busy punishing the others, and we are only having more problem when we focus on the problem. So focusing on the solution and trying to see who is doing good in this community. You know, the media have turned us to what the world have become, in the way that it's all about bad news make news, but good news is no news, right? And I think that is what this Third Alternative is about. Can we find around us people and countries that are doing great things and try to emulate and try to show that high enough so that anybody else will want to do a better thing than just sitting and then trying to look for anybody who does wrong, and then they go report or they complain or they send him to jail, and then it doesn't really solve the problems. So when power becomes too powerful in two words, like too full of power, that people have to fight. I remember some of my time in Geneva when they talk about the 7 ministers and they complain. One will say, no, I don't want to be the president this year because it's too much job. So they are running to be president while we are fighting to be president, because for them it's too much responsibility. So I think there are so many good things in the world that if you take time to read Covey's book, from 7 Habits to the Third Alternative, you can learn these values and make this world the best place we want to be. And I think Rwanda is setting that frame and that direction. And we have to all the young people, because I don't know much about the adults, but for the young people that are taking part of this program with Arise or any other organization out there, we encourage them to really stand up and build their value. Because when we say knowledge is power, knowledge is really power. If they build their own brains and they through the book reading, it's not about schools. School will do their part, but it's more about developing themselves through all these programs that are out there that are trying to help the human being to be better of themselves. We can make this place better. We can make Africa proud. We can make the world proud that we did not stand for the least. We stood for something that is right, and we put everything in order, regardless of our skin color or our tribe or our belonging or whether we are royal or we are not royal. I think we can do better as people of Africa, and the youth is my challenge. I think they have the responsibility today, before they even complete secondary school, if they can read these books, or you can encourage them and help them to have these clubs and reading club and lead teams and all these programs. We really hope that this will be the next stage for our continent. And on this note, I wish you well. I hope you find your time and go get the books and read them and understand them and master these things, so that we can build a better society for ourselves, for our children, and for the world as a whole. I stop here and thank you for the work you're doing with Arise to bring this up and share this knowledge with the world unconditionally. Thank you very much.